December 23rd, 2023. That was the night I realized my family didn't love me. They loved what I could do for them. We were sitting in the private dining room at Ember and Oak, this upscale steakhouse in downtown Denver that only takes reservations 3 months in advance. The kind of place where the napkins are linen, the lights are dim and golden, and a single steak costs what most people spend on groceries for a week. My mother picked it, of course. She always picked places that looked good in photos. I wore a simple burgundy sweater dress, nothing flashy. I learned years ago that blending in was safer than standing out. My older brother, Cameron, walked in 20 minutes late, laughing loud enough that people at other tables turned to look. He had his new fiancée, Sienna, on his arm, a blonde woman in a skin-tight emerald dress who immediately started taking photos of the wine list. My mother, Diane, sat at the head of the table in a cream cashmere turtleneck, her hair freshly highlighted, looking like she'd stepped out of a holiday catalog. And my Aunt Lorraine, my mother's older sister, occupied the seat across from me, wearing more jewelry than a department store display window. I sat in the chair without a name card. Again. The waiter brought out the first round of drinks. My mother lifted her champagne flute, the bubbles catching the candlelight, and smiled at me. Not the warm kind of smile, the sharp kind. "Well, Emily," she said, her voice sweet but her eyes cold, "I suppose we should thank you for making this dinner happen. After all, without your credit card, we'd all be eating Denny's right about now." Everyone laughed. Cameron snorted into his whiskey. Sienna giggled and whispered something to him. Aunt Lorraine didn't even look up from her phone, just smirked while scrolling. I sat there holding my water glass, smiling like I didn't hear it, like it didn't land exactly where she meant it to. But I heard it. I heard everything. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 32 years old. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Boulder, Colorado, and I work as a senior project manager for a mid-sized tech consulting firm. The job pays well, really well. Well enough that for the past 8 years, I became the family bank without ever agreeing to it. It started small, a $200 loan here, a $400 emergency there. Then it became expected. My mother's car payment when she forgot to transfer funds, Cameron's rent when his startup idea flopped for the 3rd time, Aunt Lorraine's dental work because insurance didn't cover it. I paid every single time because I thought that's what family did. But the thing about being the reliable one is that reliability turns into obligation, and obligation turns into resentment. Not from me at first, from them, because I had what they didn't: stability, a steady income, no debt, and instead of being proud, they hated me for it. So they made me the joke. The dinner that night was supposed to be a pre-Christmas celebration, a chance to come together as a family before everyone scattered for the actual holiday. But the moment the appetizers arrived, I knew it was just another stage for them to perform on. Cameron leaned back in his chair, swirling his whiskey like he was some kind of connoisseur, and looked at me with this smug grin. "So, Em, still working that boring corporate gig? What do you even do all day? Organize spreadsheets?" I opened my mouth to answer, but he kept talking. Man, I couldn't do it. Sitting in a cubicle, answering to some middle manager. I need freedom, you know? That's why I'm launching this new app. It's going to disrupt the entire meal delivery industry. I didn't mention that his last 3 disruptions failed within 6 months, or that I was the one who loaned him $3,500 to cover his business registration fees 2 years ago, money I never saw again. "Sounds exciting," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "It is," Sienna chimed in, touching his arm. "Cameron is going to be a millionaire by next Christmas. I can feel it." My mother smiled at them like they were the golden couple. I always knew Cameron had that enterprising spirit, just like his father. Aunt Lorraine finally looked up from her phone. "Speaking of next Christmas, are we doing the cabin again? I already told my friends about it. They want to come up for New Year's." My stomach tightened. The cabin. the lake house in Breckenridge that everyone called the family cabin. The place they all loved, the place they posted about on social media with captions like family traditions and grateful for this place. The cabin that was 100% in my name. Because in 2015, when my father died suddenly and left behind a mountain of debt, the bank was going to foreclose. My mother's credit was destroyed. Cameron had just declared bankruptcy after his first failed business. Aunt Lorraine was recovering from a divorce and had nothing to her name. I was 24 years old, barely 2 years into my first real job, and I was the only one with a clean credit score. So I signed. I took out a $180,000 loan to buy the cabin outright, putting my name on the deed, my future on the line. The bank didn't care about sentiment or family history. They cared about who could pay, and that was me. At the time, my mother hugged me. She cried and said, "You saved us, Emily. You saved our memories." But after that day, no one ever thanked me again. They just started using it. Constantly. Cameron threw bachelor parties there. My mother hosted her book club weekends. Aunt Lorraine rented it out to her friends without asking me, pocketing the cash. And every single utility bill, every insurance payment, every property tax notice came to my mailbox. $1,200 a month in mortgage payments, $340 for utilities, $95 for internet, $1,800 annually for property tax, $2,400 a year for insurance, another $600 to $1,000 each year for maintenance, repairs, lawn care, snow removal. I tracked it all in a spreadsheet that I updated every month, a document I titled Cabin Costs Shared. I sent it to the family group chat every quarter with a polite message. "Hey everyone, here's the breakdown for the cabin. Let me know how you'd like to split it." No one ever replied. Not once. In 8 years. At the dinner table, Aunt Lorraine was still talking about New Year's plans. "I think we should do a big party this year. Invite everyone. Make it fancy." "That sounds amazing," my mother said, refilling her champagne. "Emily, you'll handle the setup, won't you? You're so good at organizing." I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel the urge to say yes. "Actually, I'm not sure the cabin will be available." The table went silent. Cameron stopped mid-sip. Aunt Lorraine's fork hovered in the air. My mother's smile froze on her face. "What do you mean not available?" my mother asked, her tone sharp. "I mean I might not keep it. It's expensive, and I'm the only one paying for it." Cameron laughed, actually laughed. "Come on, Em. You're not seriously going to sell the family cabin." "It's not the family cabin. It's my cabin. My name is on the deed. I pay for everything. I always have." "Well, yeah, but it's still ours," Cameron said, like I was being ridiculous. "Dad wanted us to have it." "Dad left it with $80,000 in debt. I'm the one who saved it. I'm the one who's been paying for it ever since." Aunt Lorraine set her fork down. "You're being dramatic, Emily. We all chip in." I stared at her. "When? When have you ever chipped in?" She waved her hand dismissively. "I don't need to keep receipts for family contributions. It's called trust." "Trust?" I repeated, and something inside me cracked. "I've sent you expense reports every single quarter for 8 years. You've never replied. Not once." My mother's face darkened. "This is what you want to talk about at Christmas dinner? Money? You want to sit here and make us all feel guilty because you have a good job?" "I don't want you to feel guilty. I just want you to acknowledge reality." "Reality?" Cameron said, leaning forward. "Reality is, you've always acted like you're better than us. You've got your fancy job, your nice apartment, your perfect little life, and now you're going to hold it over our heads?" I felt the words like a slap. I've never held anything over anyone's head. I've just been paying for everything. Quietly. For years. Sienna, who had been silent this whole time, suddenly spoke up. "Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with keeping score, you'd actually enjoy family time." I turned to her. This woman I'd met 3 times who was wearing a designer dress I knew Cameron couldn't afford, and I felt something inside me shut down. "You're right," I said softly. "Maybe I have been keeping score." I stood up, grabbing my purse from the back of the chair. "Where are you going?" my mother demanded. "Home," I said. "Merry Christmas." I walked out of that restaurant into the freezing December night, and I didn't look back. When I got home that night, I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't call a friend to vent. I just sat on my couch in the dark, staring at the Christmas tree I'd put up alone, the lights blinking in the silence. Then I opened my laptop. I pulled up the family expense tracker, 8 years of data. Every payment, every bill, every dollar I'd spent keeping the cabin afloat while they used it like a free vacation rental. The total sat at the bottom of the spreadsheet in bold red numbers. $127,340. I opened a new email. The recipient was Richard Brennan, the real estate attorney I'd worked with when I first bought the cabin. We'd stayed in touch over the years. He sent me a Christmas card every year. He was professional, efficient, and discreet. The subject line was 2 words: "Ready now." I typed quickly, my fingers steady on the keys. "Richard, I'm ready to sell the Breckenridge property. I want it listed quietly. No public marketing until the paperwork is finalized. I don't want my family to know until it's done. Can you handle this? Let me know what you need from me. Emily." I hit send at 11:47 p.m. Then I logged into my bank account. The family credit card, the one I'd set up years ago to make shared expenses easier, was still active. My mother, Cameron, and Aunt Lorraine were all authorized users. I scrolled through the recent charges. Cameron, $340 at a high-end barbershop, $890 at electronics store, $1,200 at a luxury hotel in Vail. My mother, $210 at a spa, $430 at Nordstrom, $95 for a subscription box service I didn't even know existed. Aunt Lorraine, $670 at a furniture store, $230 for concert tickets, $180 at a wine shop. None of it was shared expenses. It was just them spending freely, because they could, because I never stopped them. I clicked Manage Users. One by one, I removed them. Cameron, Diane, Lorraine. The system asked, "Are you sure?" each time. I was sure. I was more sure than I had ever been. Then I went into my autopay settings. The cap and utilities, the internet, the insurance. I canceled every automatic payment. I didn't set up new ones, I just stopped them. I knew what would happen. In a few weeks, the electricity would be cut, the water would stop, the internet would go dark. And if someone decided to go up there for a spontaneous weekend, they'd find a cold, dark house with snow piled on the driveway and dead silence inside. I closed my laptop. The apartment was still dark except for the Christmas tree lights. I sat there for a long time, feeling nothing and everything at once. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sad. I just felt quiet. Like I'd been screaming underwater for 8 years, and I'd finally surfaced. The next morning, December 24th, I woke up to 14 missed calls and 23 text messages. Cameron, "What the hell, Emily? My card got declined at brunch. Fix it." My mother, "The bank says the account is closed. This is a mistake. Call them." Aunt Lorraine, "Very mature, Emily. Real classy right before Christmas." I read every message. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the snow fall over Boulder. For the first time in years, Christmas morning felt peaceful. My phone rang again. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail, then Cameron called, then Aunt Lorraine. I silenced my phone and set it face down on the table. Around noon, Richard Brennan emailed me back. "Emily, I can absolutely handle this. I'll start the paperwork today. Given the market and the property condition, I estimate we can list it at $425,000 and close within 60 days. I'll keep everything confidential until closing. Merry Christmas. Richard." I read that email 3 times. $425,000? After the remaining mortgage balance of $140,000, I'd walk away with $285,000. For the first time in 8 years, I'd be free. That night, I turned my phone back on. The messages had multiplied. Cameron, you're really going to ruin Christmas over this? My mother, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is unacceptable. We need to talk. Aunt Lorraine, you've always been cold, Emily, but this is a new low. And then, at 9:32 p.m., a message from Cameron that made my blood run cold. We're going to the cabin tomorrow, all of us. We're going to have Christmas there like we always do, and you're going to stop this ridiculous tantrum. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I smiled. Let them go. Let them drive 3 hours into the mountains to a house with no heat, no lights, and no water. Let them stand in the cold, fumbling with keys that still worked, only to find that the place they took for granted had finally, quietly, stopped working for them. I didn't reply. I just turned off my phone, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat by my Christmas tree. For the first time in 8 years, I spent Christmas Eve exactly the way I wanted to. Alone. And completely, utterly free. December 25th, 2023. Christmas morning. I woke up at 8 a.m. to complete silence. No phone calls, no angry texts, nothing. I made myself pancakes from scratch, something I never had time for on regular mornings. I played Christmas music, the kind my mother always said was too cheesy. I opened the one present I'd bought myself, a leather-bound journal I'd been eyeing for months. I wrote on the first page, "This is the first day of my actual life." By noon, my phone was still quiet. Too quiet. I turned it on just to check. One new message sent at 11:47 a.m. from Cameron. The cabin has no power, no water, nothing works. What did you do? I set the phone down and went back to my pancakes. 3 hours later, they started arriving. Not at the cabin, at my apartment. I heard the pounding on my door at 3:15 p.m. Loud, aggressive, the kind of knocking that makes your neighbors peer through their peepholes. I looked through mine first. My mother stood there in a puffy white coat, her face red from cold and anger. Cameron was behind her, his jaw clenched, and Aunt Lorraine leaned against the hallway wall, arms crossed, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. I opened the door halfway. Didn't invite them in, just stood there, blocking the entrance. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Cameron said immediately, his voice sharp and loud. "We drove 3 hours to a house with no electricity, no heat, nothing. It's Christmas, Emily. Christmas." "I know what day it is," I said calmly. My mother pushed forward. "You shut off the utilities? You shut off everything? Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? We had guests coming, people we invited." "To my house," I said. "You invited people to my house without asking me." "It's the family cabin," Aunt Lorraine snapped from the hallway. "You don't own it." I pulled out my phone, opened my photos, and held up a picture of the property deed. My name, only my name, in bold black letters. Actually, I do. I own it. I paid for it. I've been paying for it alone since 2015, and I'm done. Cameron's face twisted. "You're selling it, aren't you? That's what this is about. You're going to sell it and keep all the money." "Yes," I said simply. "I am." My mother's mouth fell open. For a moment, she just stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Then her face hardened. "You ungrateful, selfish little—" "Stop," I said, my voice cutting through hers like a knife. "Don't call me selfish. Not after 8 years of me paying for everything while you three treated that cabin like a free hotel." "We're family," my mother shouted. "Family helps each other." "You're right," I said. "Family does help each other, but I've been the only one helping. You've just been taking." Aunt Marlene stepped forward. "You make more money than all of us combined. You don't need it." "That's not the point," I said, my voice shaking now.
Not from fear, but from years of suppressed anger finally breaking through. The point is that you never even asked. You just assumed. You assumed I'd pay. You assumed I'd stay quiet. You assumed I'd keep being your backup plan forever. "So what now?" Cameron said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're going to cut us off? Act like we don't exist?" "No," I said. "I'm going to stop pretending this is a two-way relationship when it's only ever gone one way." My mother's eyes filled with tears, the kind she'd always used to manipulate me when I was younger. "I can't believe you're doing this. Your father would be so disappointed." That one landed, but not the way she wanted it to. "Dad would be disappointed that I saved the cabin from foreclosure?" I asked quietly. "Or that I've been paying for it alone for 8 years while you all enjoyed it? Which part would disappoint him, Mom?" She didn't answer. She just turned and walked down the hallway, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Aunt Lorraine followed without a word. Cameron stayed for a moment longer, staring at me with something between disbelief and rage. "You're making a huge mistake," he said. "No," I said. "I made the mistake 8 years ago when I thought saving the cabin would make you all appreciate me. This is me fixing it." He left. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it for a long time. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding, but I didn't cry. I just stood there, breathing, feeling lighter than I had in years. The next few days were a blur of messages. Not apologies, just anger. Aunt Lorraine sent a long text about how family doesn't keep score and how I was destroying relationships over money. I didn't respond. My mother sent a voice message, her tone cold and clipped. "When you're ready to act like an adult and stop this tantrum, let me know. Until then, don't expect to hear from me." I deleted it. Cameron's messages were the worst. He went from angry to manipulative to outright cruel. "You've always been jealous of me. That's what this is really about. Sienna says you're toxic, and she's right. Hope the money makes you happy since you clearly don't care about family." I blocked him after that last one. But the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, because even though I'd done the right thing, even though I'd finally stood up for myself, part of me still felt guilty, like I was the one who'd broken something that was supposed to be sacred. It took me 3 days to realize that what I'd broken wasn't sacred. It was just broken. On December 30th, I got an unexpected visitor. I opened the door to find Sienna standing there. Alone. She looked different. No designer dress, no perfect makeup, just jeans and a sweater, and an expression I couldn't quite read. "Can I come in?" she asked. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She sat on my couch, hands folded in her lap, looking around my apartment like she was seeing it for the first time. "This is nice," she said quietly. "You have good taste." "Thanks," I said, sitting across from her. "Why are you here, Sienna?" She took a deep breath. "I broke up with Cameron." I blinked. "What?" 2 days ago. After the cabin thing. After I saw how he talked to you. After I realized. She trailed off, then pulled a folder from her bag and set it on the coffee table between us. I stared at it. "What is that?" "Proof," she said simply. "I went through Cameron's things after we fought. I found it all. The loan documents, the property deed, the expense reports you sent that he never opened, the group chat messages where he and your mom made fun of you for sending them." My stomach turned. "They made fun of me?" "Yeah," Sienna said, her voice soft. "Your mom would screenshot your messages and send them to Cameron with laughing emojis. He'd reply with things like, 'Emily the accountant strikes again,' or 'She really thinks we're going to pay her back?'" I felt like I'd been punched. Sienna pushed the folder toward me. "I printed everything, not because I think you need it. but because I thought you deserved to know the truth. They didn't just take advantage of you, Emily. They mocked you for letting them. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Screenshots, text messages, emails, all of it, laid out in black and white. One message from my mother to Cameron, dated 3 months ago. Emily sent another expense report. Does she really think we're going to Venmo her? Cameron's reply, she'll get over it. She always does. Another one from Aunt Lorraine in a separate chat with my mother. I swear Emily acts like she's doing us some huge favor. Girl, you make 6 figures. Relax. I closed the folder. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady, cold, certain. Thank you, I said to Sienna. She nodded. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I believed Cameron when he said the cabin was his. I believed him when he said you were just being dramatic. I didn't question it until I saw how he treated you at Christmas. And then I couldn't unsee it. Why did you break up with him? I asked. Because he's a liar, she said simply. And because the more I dug, the more I realized he's been lying about everything. His startup? It's not real. He's been using investor money to fund his lifestyle. And when that ran out, he started using your money. The hotel in Vail? That was supposed to be a business trip. It was a vacation with his ex-girlfriend. I didn't even feel surprised. Just tired. I'm sorry, Sienna said again, for everything. It's not your fault, I said, but thank you for telling me. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I think you're the bravest person I've met. It takes guts to walk away from people who are supposed to love you. After she left, I sat with that folder for a long time. I didn't read through it again. I didn't need to. I already knew everything I needed to know. They didn't love me. They loved what I could give them. And the moment I stopped giving, I stopped mattering. On January 15th, 2024, the cabin sold. Richard called me at 10 a.m. with the news. It's official. The buyers closed this morning. $425,000. After paying off the mortgage and closing costs, you're walking away with $281,000. I sat down, the number sinking in. $281,000. Money I'd never have to spend on people who didn't appreciate it. Money that was finally, completely mine. Thank you, Richard, I said. Congratulations, Emily, he said warmly. You did the right thing. I transferred $30,000 to my mother's account that afternoon. No note, no explanation, just the money. Not because I owed her, but because I wanted her to know I could have given more and chose not to. The rest, I kept. I paid off my student loans in full, $48,000 gone in a single transaction. I put $100,000 into a retirement account. I used $20,000 as a down payment on a small house just outside Boulder, a place with a backyard, a fireplace, and space for a garden. For the first time in my adult life, I lived somewhere that was truly mine, not a rental, not a place I was afraid to lose, just mine. The family group chat stayed silent for weeks. Then, on February 10th, my mother sent a message. I received the money. I assume this is your way of saying goodbye? I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed a reply. It's my way of saying I don't owe you anything anymore. Not money, not explanations, not my peace. I left the group chat after that, deleted it entirely. Cameron tried to call me once in March. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. I deleted it without listening.
Aunt Lorraine sent a Facebook message in April asking if we could move past this. I blocked her. I wasn't angry anymore. I just didn't care. The only person I stayed in contact with was my 19-year-old cousin, Jesse. He'd always been different from the rest of them. Quiet,
thoughtful, kind, without expecting anything in return. He came to visit me in May, brought me a succulent plant as a housewarming gift, and sat with me on my back porch while we drank iced tea. "I'm proud of you," he said out of nowhere. I looked at him, surprised. "For what?" "For leaving," he said simply. "I've watched them use you my whole life. I always thought you'd just put up with it forever. I'm glad you didn't." "Did they say anything to you about it?" I asked. He shrugged. "Aunt Diane says you're selfish. Cameron says you betrayed the family. But honestly, I think they're just mad they can't use you anymore." "What do you think?" I asked. He smiled. "I think you're free, and that scares them." In June, I planted tomatoes in my backyard. In July, I adopted a dog from the shelter, a scruffy terrier mix named Biscuit. In August, I took a solo trip to the coast, something I'd always wanted to do but never made time for. I lived, not for anyone else, just for me. And the strangest thing happened. The guilt I'd carried for so long, the feeling that I was doing something wrong by choosing myself, it faded, slowly at first, then all at once. I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of them, the version of my family I'd always hoped they'd become. But the real them, the ones who mocked me in group chats and used me like an ATM, I didn't miss them at all. On December 24th, 2024, exactly 1 year after I walked out of that Christmas dinner, I woke up in my own house, made coffee in my own kitchen, and sat by my own fireplace with Biscuit curled up beside me. My phone was silent. No calls, no guilt trips, no demands. Just peace. I thought about sending a message to Jesse, wishing him a Merry Christmas. Then I saw he'd already sent me one. "Merry Christmas, Emily. Thanks for showing me what it looks like to choose yourself. I needed to see that." I smiled and typed back, "Merry Christmas, Jesse. You're going to be just fine." I set my phone down and looked around my living room. The small Christmas tree in the corner, the stockings I'd hung just for fun, the life I'd built entirely on my own terms. This was freedom. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet and real and mine. And for the first time in 32 years, I was exactly where I wanted to be. Alone, content, and completely, utterly free.